Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Nick and this is MSFS Flight Plans. We're going to do something a little bit different today. We're going to chill out, we're going to relax a little bit. We're going to take a hot air balloon ride over central India. I found a very interesting location for us. And this is obviously a very interesting, and for us anyway, a very different type of craft. And this video will be a bit of a combination of how to fly this thing, although I'm certainly no expert, along with our usual information about what we'll be seeing on the ground. It'll be a relatively short flight, and I'll show you where exactly we are in the world. And I will have a flight plan included in the video description, just so you can find the location. I won't zoom in too much because there's a bit of a surprise once we get in the air. But here we are roughly in central India. And there's no airports around the spot that we're going to be flying over, so I just drew the line between the two airports, and this precise location will be at the bend in the line, so you can find it. We won't need that, so I'll just slide it over here, because we're going to be going where the wind decides we should go. There really is no steering of this, you're at the mercy of the wind. So let's go ahead and climb on over here, and I'll show you basically how you get it ready for flight. First thing you need to do, of course, is turn on the propane, and we have 4 tanks and 4 valves. You can see this red lever down here, so I'll just click on each of those, get them ready, and then we'll climb in. I'm having trouble seeing the other one, so we'll have to come over to this side. There we go. And that one there. And when you're ready to climb in, you just click on this little hatch right here. So now that we're inside, we need to get the burners ready to ignite. We'll just look up overhead and turn on our pilot valves. And push the igniter buttons. And normally the balloon would be a little bit more inflated by this. I've seen people launch hot air balloons before and they use large fans to inflate them so you don't ignite them when you turn the igniters on. Which certainly would be the case if it was as deflated as it is now. But we'll go ahead and light them anyway. You can see the flames are very well depicted. And we're already sliding a little bit. I adjusted the wind to give us a favorable direction to see what we need to see. And I'm going to go ahead and remove this so that there's no spoilers. And you're going to want to map a couple of buttons over. You can map a lot of things over, but most importantly will be your blast burner valve and your whisper burner valve. Your whisper burner is a small flame. Your blast burner is a gigantic flame. And to start filling it up, we'll just give it some gas. And I have found for this flight that neutral buoyancy is going to be about 50 degrees Celsius. Of course, that will depend on the ambient air temperature. But as we climb above 50 degrees, you'll see we increase our altitude. And then we'll start to come down as it gets below that. If it comes down too much, you will plummet to the earth. This little indicator here will show us our height above the ground. It's set in meters. You cannot adjust this one. There's a couple of different things you can adjust on this one. It'll also show us our prevailing wind speed and also our ascent or descent rate right down here. So let's go ahead and give it some flame. And you'll see it start coming up. Very slowly. We don't want it to burst into flames. The correct terminology for the balloon part of this craft is an envelope. And here we go. And just so we don't scrape our face along the ground for too long, we'll go ahead and get ourselves upright. So we're above 50 now, so we're starting to come up. And as far as I know, there's no way to change your orientation as far as the way you're facing when you start, so I have set up a couple of different cameras in here for us, along each of the sides so that we can look around a little bit easier. As you can see, the scenery just looks incredible. The material the envelope is made of is created to withstand very high temperatures, north of 100 degrees Celsius. So as long as you're not putting the flame directly on it, you'll probably be in good shape. So you can see here we are ascending at 1.8 meters per second, or maybe that's per minute, let's see. It is per second. Give it another little toot. I'm just using the whisper burner right now. because again, we don't want it to burst into flames. This is the Google Pro map I have installed for this flight. It really looks fantastic in my opinion. In watching some online videos for people who fly these things regularly, they say one of the most surreal aspects of the flight is that there's no noise. Very, very little wind noise. You don't want strong winds to start with. You may hear a little bit of rustling around if there's some occasional gust, but you are moving at the speed of the wind. So there's really no wind noise. That dark spot over there, which you'll see very well in just a moment, is called the Lonar Crater, because it sits within a volcanic feature known as the Deccan Plateau. When it was first discovered by scientists in 1823, it was believed to be the remnants of a collapsed volcano. However, further analysis of the rocks discovered in the area revealed it could only have been formed by a meteorite strike. And that was believed to have occurred within the last 50,000 years, making this one of the youngest large impact sites on Earth. It will be very important that you mind your wind speeds. I have found in most locations the live weather will not work. If you want to hop in and you do have fair winds, make sure you hop in on the correct side of whatever you want to look at, or you will be blown in another direction. This crater has a diameter of just over 1 mile and descends roughly 1,000 feet from the top of the perimeter ring, while the central lake is roughly 450 feet deep when water levels are at their highest average point. The water inside of it is very saline, but it's fed by a couple of freshwater springs. So I guess you could call the water brackish, most likely. The color is accurate if you look at the satellite maps. It is perfectly a drab green color, just like that. For a better sense of scale, if you've ever been to Meteor Crater in Arizona, that one is about 25% smaller in diameter than what we see here. How would you like a look from outside? I bet you'd like that. Are you relaxed yet? I know I am. How about now? Researchers believe that the object that created this natural wonder was roughly 300 feet in diameter and traveling at 40,000 miles per hour, creating a blast equivalent to a 6 megaton nuclear explosion, or around 400 times the explosive power of the Hiroshima bomb. Additional studies of soil samples from this area indicate a possible lunar origin, as they are remarkably similar to the composition of rocks returned during the Apollo missions. If I may return to the Deccan Plateau upon which we currently find ourselves, as I mentioned earlier, it is volcanic in origin, and directly to our west, near the coast of India, is a location called the Deccan Traps, which was the site of one of the largest eruptions the Earth has ever experienced. The activity lasted between 600,000 to 800,000 years, covering this area and most of what is now the country of India with as much as 600,000 square miles of lava. And this was all happening roughly 65 million years ago, around the same time of the mass extinctions that killed off the dinosaurs, leading some to speculate the eruptions out here may have been an equal contributor to the global damage caused by the Chicxulub impact in Central America. And there have even been some proposals that this and many other planet-wide volcanic events around that time may have been caused by the shock of the Chicxulub impact, all contributing to a massive ejection of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, and many years, if not decades, of extremely high temperatures caused by the greenhouse effect. Just behind our little bar there is the town of Lonar, and all I can tell you about that is that there are roughly 20,000 inhabitants, and that 66% of them know how to read. Would you guys like some balloon fun facts? I bet you would. The first lighter-than-air flight took place in 1783 when two Frenchmen lifted off at the Palace of Versailles in Paris. However, the notion of lighter-than-air technology was not novel to the time. There are records of people sending heated containers of air into the heavens going as far back as the 3rd century BC. And lest we give too much credit to the courage of the aviation pioneers, they had already sent up several waves of animals before they decided to climb on board themselves. As far as what kind of animals were installed, regrettably I do not know. In my wildest hopes and dreams, they would be chimpanzees. But I would wager sheep and or goats is more likely. After witnessing the successful animal test, the ever-pragmatic King Louis suggested the first human passengers should be criminals with scheduled guillotine appointments. The ever-agreeable court, of course, responded with a round of nods and gentle clapping. Then, with the most astounding burst of courage in the whole affair, the two would-be pilots cautiously suggested it might be wise to send up people who actually knew how the craft worked. If you'd like to probe the depths of tranquility by piloting a balloon of your own someday, there are just a few requirements, starting with the learning of how to spell aeronaut, which is the official title of those who've mastered the skill. There's also a licensure requirement, similar to regular aviation, but I imagine a bit less rigorous. To get an LTA, or lighter-than-air certificate, applicants must pass a medical exam, complete flight training with an instructor, and pass a written FAA exam. It also helps if you're not opposed to getting high, really high in some cases. Typical recreational flights usually top out around 3,000 feet above ground level, but it seems like there's no such thing as getting too high for some aeronauts. In 2005, one of India's own set a world record after taking his 18-burner beast to an altitude of nearly 70,000 feet, which reportedly was still not high enough to impress Willie Nelson. The longest balloon flight occurred in 1999 when 3 guys left from Switzerland and landed in Cairo, Egypt, literally completing a round trip as they did it. They made it around the whole planet without landing in just 20 days. The fastest recorded ground speed in a balloon was also the first trans-Pacific balloon flight, achieved by 2 Brits in 1991 who rode the jet stream to 245 miles per hour. I'm just scanning the scenery right now for a good place to put her down. You can see we've got quite a few trees out here. So I'm thinking maybe some of these fields over here would be a good targeting spot. And we'll probably be there within the next hour and a half, I would say. The ship that crossed the Pacific was called the Virgin Pacific Flyer, and it was the largest ever built for hot air travel, with an envelope volume of 2.6 million cubic feet. And it's worth noting that Sir Richard Branson was one of the 2 men on that flight. As I was watching some of the YouTube tutorials, the best of which was by P. Gatcomb, who I'm glad to see returning to YouTube, I learned a lot about sim aviation and piloting from him in the early days. And I'm going to put a link to his video in case you'd like to know some more details about how to operate this. I've also linked the burners. You can change the direction of them to my flight stick. As you'll see, I'll look up in just a moment and move it from side to side, which no longer appears to be working. But if linked properly, it will turn from side to side. And though I couldn't get any affirmation about this from other aeronauts on YouTube, they said to some degree you can steer it just a little bit. Let me see if I can just grab it and move it. So yes, you can. I found it had mostly no effect as I was trying to use it. But it's really hard to tell if you're moving at all when you're traveling at a ground speed of around 5 knots. This over here is called the parachute valve handle. And when we pull that, it'll open a little hatch at the top that will let some air out. And if you want to descend a little bit quicker, you can give that a yank. But again, if you let too much air out, your envelope will collapse, and so will you once you hit the ground. Getting close to the ground is somewhat difficult to touch down gently. I have not yet mastered that skill. And we'll be using a little bit of the parachute valve and the burners as we approach touchdown to try to execute a smooth landing. There's another balloon available in the sim which does have a battery-powered propeller on it. I tried flying it and preferred the simplicity of this one just a little bit more. Would you guys like another outside view? I bet you would. That's what you call balloon ballin'. That's straight pimpin' right there. Straight pimpin'. Oh, he's missing some gold chains, which he probably has under that sweatshirt. If we play our cards right, we might be able to land in that field a little bit closer, because I'm not sure I could think of much more else to talk about. I'm going to assume most of you are probably asleep by now anyway, so I'll just enjoy talking to myself. We do have a few announcements for the channel. If you have not yet seen it, I have posted the flights for our quarterly member-recommended flight plan competition. That would be on the community tab of our YouTube page. We have 4 flights posted. And right now it looks like our Alpine Castles flight is just barely beating out the Colorado Canyons flight. So if you would like to cast the winning vote to break that tie, head on over there and check that out. The winner this time will receive a $75 gift card to the sim vendor of their choice. And I will continue to increase that as YouTube pays me more. So far I have paid out almost all of my YouTube earnings entirely, with the exception of about $100 I held back for purchasing my new pedals. I did fly over a couple of other spots I thought might be good for a flight on this channel. The Grand Canyon, of course, was the first, but even crossing over the more narrow parts of that took what felt like an eternity. So I decided on more of an up and down flight. And if you have not yet seen it, and you like flying helicopters, about 2 flights ago we did upload a flight lesson with a real helicopter pilot, Jeremy from Bella 242. Fantastic flight, wonderful experience. And we're thinking maybe one of our next flights will be him piloting and me giving him a tour, which would be something novel and highly entertaining. So if you would like to get on the quarterly flight plan competition, just head to our Discord page. I'll put a link for that in the video description as well. Once you're in there, just head on over to the left-hand side of the page in the Suggest a Flight section. Let me know of a spot you think we've just got to check out. I fly every one of them. We don't upload all of them, but when we find a winner, we'll post it, record it, upload it, and you will be entered in the quarterly flight plan competition. So I'm going to start doing a little bit of manipulating here with the parachute valve, which I should add is the only thing I was not able to find the mapping configuration for to connect it to something, which would be nice to be able to connect it to so that you can look out the front or the side if you're going in a different direction and be able to use that along with your burners as you're attempting to come down. So it looks like, I'm not sure if this is our ground speed or not. Little nav map says we're only going at 6 knots. But this trajectory is not good. We'll wind up hitting some trees, so I'm just going to give the propane a little toot. Bring us up above 50 degrees Celsius, and I've found in most environments, regardless of the ambient temperature, Somewhere between 50 and 60 degrees Celsius is where you'll find that sweet spot for neutral buoyancy. If there's no background music playing, this truly is serene. And it probably goes without saying that this has been the most difficult and stressful flight that I've uploaded on this channel, because relaxing is something that is nearly impossible for me to do. As you know, if you've been around the channel for a while, my natural rate of speech is rather brisk, and it takes an incredible force of will for me to talk this slowly. I know some of you will greatly enjoy that. Fans of Sam Harris probably really appreciate it. Others may not like it at all, and that's okay. I think every now and then it's good for all of us to take a little break and just slow down and relax. And what a great opportunity to do that, right here in the sim, doing the things that we love. I think we may make that field there. I just want to get a little bit closer to the treetops. Maybe we'll come down just to the right of this building over here. Or if I'm lucky, maybe I can hit this area. Shave a few minutes off of our time. So I'm going to give this a little yank, and watch how quickly that temperature comes down, and how quickly we descend. It's a little bit like a helicopter and trying to stay ahead of the motion of the aircraft. But the response time of the ascent and descent is quite a bit more of a lag, which makes it more difficult. We'll give this another little tug. Just let a little bit of air out. Just a little bit, that's all we need. Give it a little bit of a whisper. Just a whisper. I really want to be, if I can do it, right at the top of those trees there. So you can see how slow that reaction is. That's okay. Everything is slow and gentle and easy when you're traveling in lighter than aircraft. I've also found that once you hit the point where too much air has come out of the envelope, it is impossible to recover, much like getting in a vortex ring state in rotorcraft. So try not to do that. Once you get below about 40 degrees Celsius over here, that will be the danger zone. And it's really easy to overheat it as well, as you try to ascend too rapidly. I found most of the time just using the whisper burner is sufficient. Looks like we're clearing the trees, so we'll give that another little tug. Just a little tug. Enough to feel snug, a snug tug. And right about now I'm really wishing that that was mapped over to something, because you can't just grab the portion of it that you can see. You have to grab it up there at about the halfway point. Give it a little toot. I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be okay. Toot toot. And down we go. And once you're down, just like dropping the collective in your helicopter, just let the rest of that air out. Wake up. It's time to go to bed. Later.